Dan Illman, Mike Beer taking a look at race number 5 at Aqueduct on Saturday, kicking off the dollar pick six with this race, the Grade 3 Hill Prince for 3-year-olds going a mile and an eighth on the outer turf. 7 3-year-olds entered the Hill Prince. Deterministic, the number 3, just missed in the Jockey Club Derby last time out. He won the Virginia Derby 2 starts back. He's been a very useful horse, dirt or turf, for Christophe Clement.
Yeah, it never really panned out on dirt, I guess you would say. But once they switched him to grass, it does. Even he's just 1 for 4 on the surface, Dan. But it feels like he's really picked up his game, and in a lot of ways, turning back the 9 furlong series, the horse to beat.
He's a tactical sort that can work out any trip. They're all likely going to be chasing the number 1 Bartlett in the early stages as we throw up our time form US pace projector. Bartlett has plenty of speed. He'll also be trying turf for the first time, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, if they're going to run him here, I guess they're just going to send him off to the front and see what happens.
Deterministic has the fastest time form US late pace rating. We see him near the back. I do think he's a little bit more pace adaptable than that. Let's start things off with Bartlett, who's stepping up into a stakes race for the first time after 2 open length gate to wire wins around 2 turns in his last 2 races. He really seems to have found a home stretching out in distance. I like the not this times on turf, 13% with first turf runners, but just not a lot of turf on the bottom of this pedigree. The dam was 0 for 3. She's foaled 2 turf starters that haven't won. So if you like this horse, it's not about the pedigree, it's about the speed.
Yeah, maybe you just think he can wire the field here because he is talented. I mean, I do think he's a good dirt horse. I don't like you. I just didn't see any pedigree to suggest he's going to be as good on turf as he is on dirt. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't have to improve at all, Dan. If he just transfers his form, maybe he's dangerous in here. I'm probably not betting this horse.
Cugino, the number 2, showed speed 2 starts back at this distance at Churchill Downs in the Autobahn Stakes. Flavian Practice gave him a beautiful ride that day. Got him to relax on an uncontested lead and sprinted on home. They tried him at Kentucky Downs, and just watching that race, he looked like one of those horses that hated Kentucky Downs.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't care about his last race at all. His race 2 back was really strong with a very, very easy trip. But this is a horse who I think proved prior to that he doesn't need that kind of a trip to go with horses like this. I mean, this horse is talented, man. His races in the spring in Kentucky, I thought he ran really well in both the Transylvania and the American turf. And to me, this horse is really, really dangerous here. I'm using this horse for sure.
Really liked his Transylvania, Mike. He had a tough post position. He must have been 4-5 wide, exiting the first turn and entering the backstretch, and he just missed a very close head bob. The runner-up from his most recent race came back to win the Grade 3 Jockey Club Derby with a 90 buyer. And speaking of the Jockey Club Derby, it featured Deterministic, who finished second. Now, the pace kind of quickened up in this race as we take a look at Deterministic. Joel Rosario got him covered up, passing the stands the first time. The rail opens up. He shoots on through. But maybe the best run was the last run, considering the pace, and the best horse in the race was Carson's Run coming from off it.
That's how I looked at it. I mean, I just feel like the best horse in this race wins. Doesn't matter what kind of trips these horses pull. Deterministic runs fine in here. Joel, he overall got a good trip. Then he had no choice but to stay in through the stretch, but he had room down there, and he did his best. He was only second best in there. That performance was fine. His Saratoga Derby 3 starts back in the Grade 1. That was fine. I didn't think he ran great in there, but he certainly ran well enough to be considered a contender in here. I didn't love his Grade 3 win, 2 starts back, but he got the job done. I don't know. To me, this horse so far anyway, and you can feel free to disagree here, I just think he's been more hyped than anything else. I don't think he's ever really lived up to it.
But I do think he's solid and easily can win this race. With a horse like Deterministic, it always comes down to price. Make your line and make sure you stick to it. The 4 is Main Beach, one of 2 in here trained by Chad Brown, and both of these horses are going to be trying Stakes Company for the first time. Main Beach finished 4th last time out in a first-level allowance at Saratoga. He rallied from off the pace that day. He was listed as a vet scratch on August the 24th sick, but he faced a very good field in that allowance. The winner of that race, I'm a big fan of that horse. He came back to win the Grade 3 Saranac with an 85 buyer.
Yeah, that was a good allowance for the Saratoga. This horse also didn't get a great trip in that race. He ran really well because this is another horse who was forced to stay inside all through the stretch there. And he was lacking room for much of that stretch run, Dan, but he kept coming forward in there. I just thought he ran really well in that race and took a step forward. His prior 2 starts at Monmouth, he was still super green in the first one of those, really pulling. Didn't seem like he really knew what he was supposed to be doing in there. Lost a spot on the far turn, almost won. And you can go back and watch his maiden win. He got an easy trip that day, but still, even there, he must have changed his leads 15 times through the stretch while he was running away from that field. I think he's just figuring it out, but I think he has a lot of talent.
Trainer Madison Myers is very underrated in the Mid-Atlantic area with her turf horses, and she'll send out the 5 Desvio, who won his first 2 turf starts, including the Kent Stakes 3 starts back. He's been competitive with the likes of Deterministic in his last 2. Maybe moved a little bit too soon in the Jockey Club Derby, Mike?
Yeah, I wonder if he did because it's interesting, Dan. I mean, I guess he didn't run great in that race, but maybe there's an excuse because when I went back and watched the Virginia Derby, I thought this horse ran a really underrated race that day, and I'm not sure Deterministic ran that much better than this horse did in there. Obviously, Deterministic, ran the better race last time, but maybe this horse had a little bit of an excuse. He's a huge price in here, and I think he's underrated.
Chad Brown is showing a lot of confidence in the 6 right to vote, jumping him up into the graded stakes ranks in only his 4th lifetime start off of a maiden win. This was his race at Saratoga, and it was his first start in about 10 months, and I think it was a perfect prep for this. I thought all in all he got a very good trip, but he might be feeling the effects of the layoff a little bit, and he's working very hard to get past these 2 horses. But the way he grinds by makes me think a mile and an eighth is going to be no problem. He's a good-looking son of Vino Rosa who might be just reaching peak maturity.
I agree with that. I think more distance is going to help this horse. I don't think I would necessarily bet him off of that race, but as you've already pointed out, he was first off of a very long layoff in there, and he did just sort of go right by those horses at the end of that race after a perfect trip, no doubt. But his turf debut was fine. He improved last time. He has to improve again here.
Considering Royal Majesty's wonderful tactical speed, it seems like he gets good trips in most of his races. I was really surprised to see him so far back in the early part of the Gio Ponte last time out. He was down inside, and when we turned for home, he still had a lot of work to do. And remember, this race was won in gate-to-wire fashion by Donegal Momentum. Royal Majesty is going to get through along the inside, and he's going to be very game to finish second. I do think he can get a little bit closer to the pace if Junior Alvarado is a bit more aggressive. He's consistent, just doesn't win very often.
Yeah, true. I feel like maybe some of those longer distances though, 2 and 3 back, maybe they didn't really work to his advantage. And he runs well in here because this was not a race where you necessarily wanted to have a lot of ground to make up through this stretch, but he made up some ground in there to be second best. I like that performance. I'm a fan of this horse. I wish he didn't have the outside post again because now I wonder he had the outside post last time and he wound up too far back. I wonder if that happens to him again here. But like you, I think he can be more forward. And I think if Junior gets this horse a good trip, he can beat this field.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Grade 3 Hill Prince. I do like Royal Majesty. I think he's going to be a price in this race. Cugino, though, really interests me. I don't think he's a need-to-lead type as he was when he won last 2 starts back at Churchill Downs. I think he can sit, and I think it will be a great target if Bartlett doesn't handle turf. So I'm going to lean 7-2. You're going with Main Beach, who's all upside.
Yeah, that's why I took him. I mean, among the 2 favorites, who I suspect are going to be the 2 and the 3, I just much prefer Cugino. I'd rather have him. I probably won't use Deterministic at all, and if he wins, that's fine with me. I'll be out. But I'm not terrified of any of the shorter prices in here. And I want somebody else, and I really like what I've seen from Main Beach so far. We'll see if he's good enough.
4-2-3-7 for Mike, 7-2-3-1 for me in the Grade 3 Hill Prince, race 5 at Aqueduct on Saturday, the kickoff leg of the Dollar Pick 6. Good luck. Hey buddy, you look like you're in need of a winner, and just remember, if you like and subscribe right over here, you can get all of the great content on DRF.com, including Race of the Day, stakes previews, and lots more, featuring me and my superb selections. Trust me, you're not going to regret it.